Okay, so this is the ear model, the entire length of it. And what you're seeing out here is the auricle or pinna. And believe it or not, all of these different bumps that you're seeing inside the ear have different names. So that little bump on the outside of your ear that's shown right here, that's called the tragus. It's not on your hit list, I just thought I would tell you. And the actual outside part of this is called the helix. And where it attaches, it's called the crus of the helix. Not again on your hit list, but I just think it's interesting that there are so many parts to your external ear. And then this part that's inside, that's called the antihelix. And then again, where it connects, these are the crus of the antihelix. And then obviously the opening here is the external auditory canal. That is backwards. Okay, so here's the external auditory canal. And it's leading back here to this structure. This is called the tympanum, or your eardrum as you call it. So the tympanum, on one side, its purpose is to actually receive the sound vibrations, and the tympanum membrane will start fluctuating back and forth as a result of those vibrations. It is the structure that separates the external ear from the middle ear. So here's the middle ear, and this marks the beginning. I have to keep in.
Sorry.
It's all right. Now we got to fix this. Okay. So this is the pharyngotympanic tube, also known as the auditory tube or the eustachian tube. And this is, of course, found, the outlet to it is found in the in your nasopharynx, and it's protected by the tubal tonsils, one of the 4 tonsils that I taught you about. This is clinically relevant because if you are feeding a baby and you're not keeping their head upright, their pharyngotympanic tubes are not as slanted as ours are, and so it's easier for the milk to backsplash from their mouth to their pharynx and even up to the nasopharynx and into that tubal tonsil, and then next thing you know, they have a middle ear infection. And it's something you don't want to just let resolve itself, because the bacteria have a nice warm environment here, and they can actually replicate so that they push on the tympanic membrane and they can rupture it.
Do they put the tubes in the tympanic membrane?
Yes. So when you get the tubes inserted, if you're a chronic ear infection person, that's to allow it to drain so that it doesn't rupture. It's a lot easier for a cut to heal than a tear. So on the back side of the tympanic membrane, you see these 2 ossicles. The first one here is the malleus, and the next one here is the incus. So as the tympanic membrane is undulating back and forth from the vibrations, the malleus starts to move, and then the incus starts to move, and finally the 3rd ossicle, shown just a little piece of it, right here, this is the stapes. So this is so backwards to me. I move this way, move this way. Okay, so here we see the stapes right there, and it's found on the oval window. So as the stapes keeps pounding on the oval window, this is going to cause fluid vibrations inside these structures. And the fluid that's found inside these bony structures is called perilymph. So I'm going to show you another model in just a little bit. But first, let's look at these semicircular canals. Now, in your Blackboard lecture, I told you that there are 3 bony compartments to the inner ear. The semicircular canals, the vestibule, right here, and then the cochlea. The semicircular canals have soft membranous structures inside them called the semicircular ducts. In this model, they're shown as clear. Now inside the semicircular ducts, we would have endolymph. And in your Blackboard lecture, I said to think of these bony compartments with the soft structures inside them like an aquarium. So think of the box-like aquarium as the bony structure. Aquaria are filled with water, right? So think of the water inside the aquarium as the perilymph. And then the soft membranous structures inside, like the fish, well, these semicircular ducts are the soft membranous structures, and they have fluid inside them as well, just like fish have blood. So the fluid inside them is going to be the endolymph. Now, what's the purpose of the semicircular ducts? At their swollen endings down here, that's called the ampullae, they have a structure where they have hair cells embedded in this gelatinous cap. And it looks actually like a bishop's hat. And so it's kind of like a pointed structure. It's called a cupola. So as you start rotating around, maybe you're an ice skater and you're doing your little spins. As you're spinning, the cupola, this gelatinous cap, starts to fold over along with the inertia of your spinning. It all depends, of course, which way you're tumbling. But as it folds over, the hair cells are also bent. And that means they can start action potentials. And then you have the part in your brain that deals with your equilibrium. And it is going to basically try and tell you where you are in space, even though you're tumbling. But you get a lot of clues about where you are, where your body placement is, from visual clues and auditory clues. Have you ever been in a severe avalanche and lived? Who does that? Anyway, part of the problem with victims caught in the snow is, of course, as they're tumbling in that downpour of snow, their ampullae with the cupola, the crista ampullaris with the cupola and the hair cells, that entire structure is called crista cupollaris. Anyway, all of that gets overstimulated. And so when they finally stop tumbling, they're trapped in snow. They can't see daylight. They don't really know where out is. And so they just randomly start digging through the snow. And a lot of victims have died very close to the surface of that snowbank, but they were digging deeper instead of out. So if that ever happens to you, spit. Or they say pee, but that's not going to give you a lot of options. But spit and see which way your saliva falls. That would obviously be the ground and work the opposite way. So great, that's going to be on YouTube now. All right. Now, in between the semicircular canals and the cochlea, this space in between where we saw the stapes hitting the oval window, this bony structure that my fingers are around is called the vestibule. And you find two soft structures inside the vestibule, the utricle and the saccule. The saccule is smaller than the utricle. We cannot tag it because there's nothing to open up inside that model. The saccule, think S for saccule and S for small. Think utricle, U for utricle and U for huge. Okay. No one will want to take my class. There's a method to my madness. Okay, so same kind of system. We're going to have hair cells. We're going to need to bend them to get them to start an action potential. But this time, instead of a gelatinous cap, we're going to have what's called an otolithic membrane. And the otolithic membrane has a whole bunch of calcium carbonate crystals called otoliths. Now the utricle and sacricle are important for linear acceleration when honey is driving. I think I have an overactive utricle and sacral because I don't even have to look at the speedometer. I'm saying, slow down! But also if you were to put your head down on your chest or on your shoulder or back, those otoliths will actually tumble along the hair cells. So just like you pouring a bucket of seawater with sand in it, all the sand crystals kind of pour out along with the water. The otoliths do the same thing. So they kind of be pushing on the hair cells, and that's enough stimulus to cause an action potential. The last structure that I'm going to talk about is the cochlea. Now, doesn't the cochlea look like it is a wound up sleeping bag to you? Okay, so I want you to think about unrolling the cochlea like a sleeping bag. And I want you to think of yourself going into the sleeping bag. And instead of the sleeping bag being soft fabric, I want you to think of it as bone around you. And you are the soft structure, membranous structure inside. I want you to think of the air between your sleeping bag and your body as the perilymph. I want you to think of the fluid inside you as the endolymph. Can you visualize that there would be air above you, but underneath your sleeping bag? And that air could continue all the way down the length of your body toward your feet. And it could conceivably go around your feet and up the backside of your body. All right, so the same thing happens in the cochlea. The middle soft membranous structure is called the scala media, or the cochlear duct is what it's called. It's got two names. And that's the soft membranous structure. The scala vestibuli and scala tympani are the spaces above or below it. The scala tympani is above, and the scala vestibuli is below it. So that means that when the tympanic membrane starts undulating, and the malleus and incus and stapes start moving as a result, the stapes pounds on the oval window. And that means now the fluid inside the cochlea will start to vibrate or undulate as well. The perilymph does. And that pressure wave goes all the way down the end of your sleeping bag, right? Called the end where your feet would be is called the helicotrema. And it can come back out the other end. And in between those two areas where the perilymph is found is the cochlear duct, the soft membranous structure that has fluid inside it, the endolymph. And so the poor cochlear duct starts undulating as well from all these fluid vibrations. And inside the cochlear duct, you have the organ of Corti, which again, we're going to have hair cells being rammed into a structure called the tectorial membrane. Do not confuse tectorial membrane with tympanic membrane. So as the cochlear duct is ramming its hair cells into the tectorial membrane, action potentials are started, and that is carried away by this structure right here called the vestibular cochlear nerve. So all these structures are the inner ear. You have three bony structures, and within them soft membranous structures. All three of those areas use hair cells in some capacity to start action potentials. And the way they're started is by bending them. And how we bend them is different depending on which part of the inner ear you're in. Is it the cupula for spinning? Is it the otoliths and the otolithic membrane that are sprinkling over the hair cells? Or is it the tectorial membrane where the hair cells are being rammed into the surface of it? All right, now I'm going to show you one more model.